And stuff. All right. So you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Airing It Out podcast. I am your host, Dustin Marion. I'm excited to have back on K10, Kristen Nettle. Some call her the Twitter queen of Tesla. Welcome back, young lady. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
No, it's always a pleasure. Like I said, you're one of the smart people that I know. And so I just enjoy talking to you because it's really awesome to get your perspective on all things Tesla and some other stuff. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, let's not bury the lead here. What did you think about his performance on SNL? Did you think it was awesome? What were your original thoughts? I mean, everybody in the whole entire world, I feel like, is it offensive to call people nerds? Sure.
No, I don't. I don't. I never considered it offense, but maybe someone does. I don't.
Right? I don't know.
I don't
They get
know.
so nervous now. They get so nervous. So I feel like the whole entire, all the smart kids, let's put it like that. We'll give them, we want to stay woke. All the smart
Yeah.
kids were super, were super excited about this. I take it you were definitely excited.
Yeah, I was definitely excited. I mean, I don't watch regular television. I don't have cable, but I was definitely running around trying to figure out the best venue to or I don't know, group to upload. But there's Hulu, YouTube TV, but I didn't want to pay the fees because we're all like that. We're like, we don't want to be stuck being like renewed fees.
And that's the future. What are you talking about? Cable is 2022. Who plays who
Yeah.
cable? Or 2021. I'm ahead of myself. See, I'm going into.
I mean, we're halfway there almost. So yeah,
So,
true.
so what did you end up? How did you end up watching?
I ended up, this is so bad.
Yeah,
So I
come on, let's
ended
go.
up, and I know better. I ended up watching the people who were totally like ripping it off, like on YouTube, because there were so many streaming parties. But it was funny because, like, well, it was kind of bad. SNL, the algorithms would just catch it and like shut it down, so you have to quickly find another one. But I think I ended up, I remember, I ended up seeing the whole thing. Like, I found somebody or YouTube TV. I don't know. I quickly dialed in, but yeah, I watched it there, and then I had to go back and watch some scenes because, like, I missed some stuff, but other than that, yeah, how did you end up watching it?
I didn't. So
Oh,
it
you
was
didn't?
weird. I watched it, but I didn't. It's weird. Um, so all day. So funny story. I end up going to brew beer because I guess I'm like becoming like a serial entrepreneur. I don't even know if I'm any good at being an entrepreneur, but I keep trying different things. So we're all excited. Everybody's like watching Dodge. Everybody has their wallets open, and not just for the listeners, not your real wallet. Like all of these new crypto wallets that everybody's looking into,
Yeah.
and I forget, or Robin Hoods and all these other things. And so they're like, hey, it's either going to kill or it's going to go down. This guy is basically going to, move the needle on crypto huge. And obviously, we've seen all the memes. If you're, big on Twitter and stuff, all the Dogecoin dogs, the Shiba Inu, I think that's the dog. And he's been a big, proponent of crypto, Bitcoin, and now him also talking about Dodge. And so, somebody invited me to their house. I don't even know how they put it on. I think someone streamed it from their phone, but I kind of showed up late. But I wasn't. As soon as I like talked to some people, I'm like, did it hit? And then when they said that coin took a dive, I was like, oh, that wasn't good. So
Yeah.
I ended up just hanging out, and then I watched it afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, Elon, I was telling someone before even on, Elon's really good off the cuff, like humor that's impromptu. It's just something that he does. So like scripted, let's see how he does. But he did an awesome job scripted. I thought he was funny. Um, Come to find, like there's like a little bit around a dozen major wallets that hold Dogecoin, and we've all seen that one of the big someone who worked at a big banking firm, I can't remember what, he sold his Doge, I think, right then. So they knew that it would probably pump. So I think one or two of the big wallets actually sold all their shares, so it just dived to Doge. So but people are hanging on.
I mean, it was weird, right? Like when you look at it from, let's say, a 6 month overview, right? You got it comes out of nowhere, kind of getting pumped by the gentleman at Wall Street Bets, right? They're like, hey, this is like a new thing. It gets crazy. I see people like fighting. It's like it was not even a cent, right? And it goes from not even a cent till about 30 cents. Then it gets up to 50. Everybody's buying, selling, moving off of it. And then I think right before his show, it went up to like 75 cents. So I felt like that probably was the best opportunity for people to take advantage. But I mean, I don't know. Like, did you feel like when you're in the industry, you get the guts? Did you think like, oh, it's probably gonna go down just because it was so much hype surrounding it on the SNL day? Because everybody thought it was gonna go through the roof.
So everyone thought it would go up on 420 too. and it did exactly what it did on 420. It went up the day before and dived on 420. So what I'm learning, because I'm not a short seller and I'm not into this industry where like you pump and dump because you make money. There's a lot of people who take this. I mean, they're like verified accounts, they're professionals that know the way it works. And some of the jokes on Reddit was, oh, well, my mom found out about Doge and wants to invest. So now is the time to take it off the table. So there's something about that. They're seeing like it's time to take it off the table as soon as it's like hit hot and everybody knows about it. So I think that's interesting. So there's definitely, I mean, I really think Elon's about the little people and wanting to do it, but I can't say that all those other big wallets are. But yeah, that's definitely what their plan was. They were waiting because they were like, oh, everyone's going to get in. It's going to be good. And then they're like, take it off the table.
I know. I just had a young man on Silverback, and he's doing Gorillify, which I guess now is a crypto as well. And we were talking about FOMOing and getting wrecked, right? And everybody FOMOs into this thing, and it's just insane. I mean, that makes sense though, right? Like again, I'm not this crazy investor. I'm trying to be a serial entrepreneur, and I do have money in the market, but it's really hard to read those tea leaves, right? Because everybody's saying, well, it's going to go this day. But I guess the smarter guys are like, well, if that's what the projection is, then we'll pull out a day earlier so we could kind of cover our hide and stuff like that. And then I had a friend, I don't know if he sent me an article or something like that, but he's like, people are trying to figure out or have figured out already on how to short crypto, which that could be dangerous now because it wasn't supposed to be this thing, right? It's supposed to be something different. And now it sucks that like is Wall Street now getting involved, and are they ruining things by not bringing in that same kind of, I don't know, stuff into it?
Cent-
Yeah,
Centralized energy where there's a middleman that takes a piece off the table. That's what we were trying to get away from.
right.
Like,
Is it unavoidable? Is it unavoidable? You know? And I mean, I'm sure
yeah.
you could speak to this a little bit as well. It's like, so I was watching this thing late night talking about on how, socialist ideas aren't horrible. Is capitalism ruining this country and ruining these like novel ideas? I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
So yeah, that is quite a thing. Social ideas have been around forever. I mean, this is controversial, but the church has been doing social work for a long time, and anything tied to social usually is at the benefit of the people on a wider scale. But institutionalized socialism, that's different because we start running into people who like to get in positions of power over people, and you see this anywhere from nurses to police, just anywhere someone can be over anybody. The psychopathic mind, those totalitarian dictators in history who once told everyone what they wanted to hear, they gain the power and they abuse it. So I don't know, like it's a checks and balances, I think. So I think the US has a great checks and balances, but corruption is widespread. And I don't think that just ends in capitalism. We can go to we can go to we can go to any other country that's got horrible things. I mean, look at Venezuela. Like, but
No one's even
cap
talking about that, if you could believe that.
yeah, that's heartbreaking. I mean, but capitalism is a good idea, but you're never going to get away from people who will always want to hurt other people. I mean, you could have siblings that are like this. Like your household isn't run by capitalism or socialism, but yeah, capitalism. I think that powerful people will use whatever means in whatever society they can to hurt people. So I think as long as the little person has more freedom, that's the best option. But I just feel like we need to hold people more accountable, but that's the problem. These powerful people start making the rules because they have the money. So, I
And
mean, there's good people out there who make rules, but
I agree. I mean, it's weird because it's like, is the human being flawed, right? Because it's exactly what you said. I mean, even a 2 year old to another 2 year old won't lend or borrow or share, right? Is that just in our DNA that once you get something, you don't want to give it to somebody? Like, you literally have to teach sharing at a fundamental level. And now if someone hasn't been sharing their whole life and they get a lot more, it's going to be even harder for them to let go and probably be resistant to that. I think that's why, and you and I believe, agree on this, why Elon is such a pioneer, not just in the science part or the things that he brings to the table, but the actual idea of sharing ideas, of all of us coming up, of all of us taking opportunity. I mean, I think that's why he probably got in crypto originally, was because the decentralization of things and giving back to the people in a lot of way.
yeah. No, I think he's all about that. I mean, he's about less rules and more freedom to the people, less silly things that entrench people for no reason. I mean, like the tax laws are absolutely ridiculous, but still the corporations that look for the loophole and intentionally abuse it. I mean, and there's people who do it too. They intentionally abuse it and then they blame and point a finger as if I don't know. When you do something wrong, as if it's someone else's fault because they let you. I don't know, ownership, but whatever.
I
No, I
know.
think Elon's all about. I think Elon's a pretty straight shooting, honest, sincere person. I think. I mean, he's doing his things for people on the grander scale. It's not about him. He's not like getting the biggest yacht in the world. He could take an island and go do what he wants. Like,
He could have been retired, basically,
yeah. I
at
mean,
this
it's
point, right?
costing him his health. It was
Right.
hard on his first marriage. Like, it's not easy for sure. But I think he realizes that not a lot of people can commit, and it's very hard and costly. So he pulls that load, which is really hard.
I
But
know.
yeah,
Um, it seems to almost be like on an island when you're referencing that, when you're the only guy trying to, like, pull you away. And I think, like, that was part of him saying, like, hey, look, and I'm dumbing this down, but if you're smart and you know how to figure stuff out, you can apply and you might get a job, right? Versus
yeah,
you got to have a this and a that and a PhD and a couple of those and Harvards and Yales, right? Which I've opens the space up with, again, is trailblazing, because you don't really hear that. A lot of other folks are like, well, you got to show me all of this background, but in some of the things that he's doing, obviously not everybody has like the same foresight that he does. And I feel like he probably was at a level that most people, don't worry about it. It's all good. We'll get,
okay.
you're in the streets. I see you. Don't worry.
I
We're
feel
looking
bad.
good. You're in the field. That's what it's all
Yeah,
about. It's not a big deal. And he's got a beautiful background. It's not fake. It's not green screen. Don't sweat it. Just chill out and we'll be all good. But like I was saying, I think that that's something that shows or lends to the idea that, you know, some of his ideas and causes are bigger, because most people just want you to get a paycheck because of what your stats are. And like I said, for him, I'm sure, and even with May, which I thought about you, funny enough, because I know you guys have a relationship, when he talked about building that video game, right? Like, so there's kids that are already, geniuses. Like, they already hit the ceiling at 14, right? You didn't
yeah.
have to, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you're a little younger, but I'm sure you're aware of the TV show, Doogie Howser, even if it was a joke, there are people that are at that genius level very early on. Some people get it, not everybody, but some people's light
Hmm.
bulbs come on really strong in the beginning. Um, I wanted to ask you, because I was watching, you always put up entertaining stuff on Twitter, and you just talked about Elon and having struggles in his first marriage. I remember you started like a dialogue about how people kind of bore their spouses about their love for Tesla. I wanted to get like your opinion. I want to get your opinion on like being geeked out about something and trying to share it sometimes, because I almost feel like this hit home the way you kind of framed it, but I might be wrong. And can we bore our significant other or our partners with some of the stuff that we geek out about?
Boy, I mean, I talk to a lot of different people. I think it comes to time management and paying attention to significant other, just like children. Like they'll be upset at a parent that never gives them the time of day. I mean, people are really bitter in life. There's some really well off children from well off people, and they're just bad people because they're so bitter. But I think we often fall in love with someone for common interests and goals and direction. And if we feel like someone's hung that up because they're going in their own direction and kind of forgot us, that might be how some people see it, or some people just don't understand. Like, I don't understand how you can be with someone and not like love some of their passions, but maybe people are just like, I don't know. Like I would think people would be interested in it. But as far as Tesla, like some people are more gearheads, and they definitely were more into their cars, and maybe their spouse thinks it's like ridiculous or silly. Like, I'm not the typical girl. Like, some girls, there's some girls who do love cars, but there's some girls who just think whatever the man does is silly, like, or weird, which is weird. I don't know. They don't like his hobby, or they think he spends too much with his car. So I don't know. Like, Tesla's doing a great thing. You think that people would be on it, but people change and evolve in a relationship too. So I don't know. What do you think? You've talked to people, so
Yeah, and so when I was thinking about asking you this stuff, I was thinking about my mom, and the Tamil phrase "people don't change," right?
yeah,
My mom said that's a lie. She said, "You know what the problem with people is that they do change,
hmm
right? And we're confused that it's the other way, and it's not." And she had a really valid point, and I thought about that for a while, and I was like, man, because originally, like, you know how it goes. Everything that you think is so adorable and wonderful, right? Towards 3, 4, 10, 20 years in, now it's annoying and bothersome, and you wish they would stop doing it, or whatever the case is. I feel like women potentially maybe get more annoyed at men about it. I can't really speak for like, gay couples and things of that nature, but for the most part, women seem to get on guys' cases. Now, I'm not trying to like, pull it on anything, but it's always like he's doing too much of this or doing too much of that, and they want us to do more responsibility. But I feel like it takes the edge off. And I don't know. You tell me. I mean, you are in a way different space because I feel like some of the women that you deal with are gearheads and are science junkies and that's not typical, right? And
Yeah.
so I feel like sometimes the partner feels like you're not spending enough time with them because you're indulged into your hobby more. But it doesn't seem like often that many women have hobbies, unless it's like going out with the girls, right?
Yeah, I think there, I mean, you're hitting on the head. Women, I mean, I'm odd like this too. Women are a lot more relationally like oriented. Like they'd rather to spend time with the relationship and the nurturing comes first often for a lot. And then whatever we do in another space together. Where I mean maybe I understand this because I understand my dad. Like my dad loves trains. I mean, my dad loves trains. We spent vacations at train yards sometimes, and my mom was not happy.
Oh my
But
god.
hey, I was out on the ground looking at scrap train like scrap junk trains with him. Like it was really fun for me. But I did see the conflict between the two of them because this was his downtime to de-stress. Like I mean, this could be controversial in itself, but like testosterone usually works. It's a hormone that causes men to it sends out like men want to go out and do things under stress. Like, and for my dad, I know that doing his trains, like he does model railroading. I mean, he works for the railroad now. If that says anything, I helped him like write his resume. He was working in aerospace, and now he works for the railroad because it's always been a dream of his. But he's a maintenance man. But but men, I think, usually like to do. They want to do something. And you've heard this before. When men and women argue, men want to fix it. Men want to do something. Let's figure this out. Women are like, no, let's just talk this out. Let's just feel this out. I want you to understand me. And so I think you'll see that in their hobbies, right? Like women
Yes.
want someone to understand them. And so maybe they feel like and women have a lot more going on with fluctuation of emotions. So maybe they've gone through like 5 different colors of a mood in a day. Like guy's just like coming home and like exhausted from work and annoyed by his boss or something, you know? So just totally different. And he wants to blow off steam and not at her.
Yeah, I think also too, there's something like weird when you're talking about like on a chemical level that the endorphins that get released when you do something that requires no brain activity, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're at work all
Yeah.
day and you're dealing with the boss and you're dealing with the coworker and you're dealing with a client and you're just dealing, and you're trying to compartmentalize all that stuff. And you gotta, compartmentalize your emotions too, because you're gonna be upset, you're gonna be happy, you're gonna be nervous, you're gonna be excited, whether it's a new deal where you gotta fire somebody, whether you're gonna get yelled at, and then you come home and you try your best, to um, be available for your family and things like this. But there's just times where if you could just go blank slate and just do something, I guess that's why guys like have the beer and work on the car. I mean, that story you hear like over and over and over again, especially guys that have that, or there's some hobby that they're working on, or they're building something. Dudes are building shit all the time, even if they don't know how to build, right? Like that just
Yeah.
seems to be imprinted in the DNA. And at least for me, like I said, when it's mundane, it kind of takes your mind off of things in a different way. So it gives you that space. I feel also too like guys kind of like to work on stuff from the back where women like to be up in front and center, right? Like they have to have it's more hands on and like you were saying, they go through a lot of shades of colors and the guy's kind of less like gray most of the time unless it requires eating or getting money. But when you can be in that gray space, I guess there's a level of comfortability with it, which would be interesting to ask Elon about this, right? Like when you talk about making time for fam, like is are you like combining because you're doing 18 hours of work? Are you like combining hobby with job so you kind of like get some of the stress out? Because it must be hard for him to decompress.
I think Elon reminds me of the typical Japanese worker. I think he just works, works, and works. And from what we've seen, he just takes his sons with him, which is amazing because I mean, what better way if you can as a father to take your or a mother to take your children with you to display like how things are done. Like these boys will always remember as they watch their father do things like how it was, and it's better that they see things up close and personal than not. I mean, it sounds like I feel funny talking about it, but him and his first wife Justine were divorced, but it sounds like he had his boys, I would assume, like in the weekends. And For a while there, it looked like he was tweeting about making cookies for his boys and like just setting out time aside. So he's very intentional with his time, and it seems like wherever he is, he's all there. So I mean that it definitely works for him. Like I'd have to say Elon is a master of time discipline, like more than most people, and holding yourself to that, because I'm sure it's not easy to get in your jet and wanted to and have to fly between Tesla and SpaceX all the time and like to miss sleep, but he does just do it. I don't know. I think it'd be really hard. He's just he's a caliber above everyone else for sure. So
I think, when I was looking at it too, I think that that's definitely like the mastery of it. If you can dial down the schedule and commit to it over a long time, not only do you get a lot of stuff done, you'll get a lot of stuff accomplished. And when you're trying to like execute at the level that he is, it kills. The only thing is weird, right? Like the dichotomy of that is when you have a female partner, it's like, what, you making me like a job? You're trying to carve out time for me, and then it's just like, listen, no, what I'm trying to do is make time and then be there all the time because I have other things to do as well. One guy that I look at and I find fascinating, I'm not crazy about some of his work, but his schedule is crazy. I don't know if you ever seen Mark Wahlberg's schedule, but Mark Wahlberg has it like dialed to like time with the kids, time with the missus, eating times, praying times, work times, conference calls, like his whole thing,
wow.
right? Like, and it just don't deviate the flight plan. And I mean, he's, if not close to $1 billion in just revenue, I mean, he's got to be in the triple digit millions. But that's the kind of thing that I guess it takes to be that accomplished, right? Like every second
Mm.
counts, right? You can't waste time.
Yeah, I mean the early bird gets the worm, and that's the problem. Is like not all of us are getting up early, and not all of us are all doing that kind of thing to that degree. But I have to agree that that highly disciplined schedule is what it takes. I mean, I mean, majority of us have been in high school, I assume so, but we all know that like getting to class on time, like getting your work done, it's just like a pre-runner for the work life, for just being successful. Like staying after school and talking extra to the teachers if you need to, or joining a few clubs and like getting there early. The more you put in, the more you get out. But as far as like the relationship census, like um, I mean, marriage itself is a contract, but relationships themselves are often unspoken contracts. So it's just very important to know your expectations. And I think people have to revisit those, just like a business has to revisit the business plan, because things change, expectations change, desires change. So for sure, like, I don't know. Yeah, but definitely discipline and hard work. And I had no clue about Mark Wahlberg. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's I mean, just because I'm a junkie for scheduling, there's a bunch of them. Like The Rock is another guy who has it just like, bang, bang, bang. I'm up at 4 a.m. I'm banging weights. I'm doing this, and I mean, I guess if you get dialed and the contract is bought in by both sides, it could probably be really good because instead of you, let's say, just getting the kids for the weekends, right? You're literally spending a quality amount of time, an hour a day. That compounds, right, over 7 days, over 4 weeks, years and years and years, versus trying to shove everything into one day and maybe you don't follow up with that day every day. Maybe it's just every other weekend. And how much are you there and how much are you giving? I think that's another hard thing too. I was talking once to a professional athlete, and that was the advice he gave me. He was always like, if you're gonna do something, be present. If you're at the party, kill the party. But if you're at work, dominate the work, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
people are doing both, right? They're at work thinking about the party, or they're at the party thinking about work. And he felt like that was very successful for him in the way he was trying to do things.
Yeah. I mean you're getting to psychology. Why do people not be present where they're at? Like you could create a pattern of not enjoying the household you're growing up because possibly it was a very abusive, horrible household, and you're always waiting for the next moment. So it's good to reflect on why you have those thinking patterns. Like why are you always trying to escape your present place? Like I think counseling's for everyone. I think everyone should like examine themselves and like hash it out, kick it out, get it out, whatever's not there, and like root it out so you can be successful in life for sure. But yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally think so. I mean, I think even if it's not, quote unquote therapy, you analyzing your day and self accounting, I think is important. And why do you do what you do? I mean, I think another thing too, for like whether it's entrepreneurs or truly successful people, they always talk about starting with the why, right? And I feel like people just, that was the
Mm.
thing that had me all like strange about, now with COVID kind of pulling the wool back or over, depending on how you look at it, that maybe regular job is not the answer, right? Maybe we should be building for ourselves. It's like, why are you doing that? Are you just doing it to pay your bills? Like, is that all we're living for, right? Like, it's interesting when you start asking deeper questions, and even a deeper question is, are people asking themselves these deep questions? Because it doesn't seem like everyone is curious in that capacity.
Yeah, no, no. It's funny you're talking about it because I was just talking about this with someone yesterday. Like, not everybody is like, but that goes once again to there's so many layers of psychology about why someone doesn't do self-examination. It could be because I mean they're a narcissist, or it could be because they're totally afraid, or because I mean they could have been like I mean abuse possibly, like why they don't do it, or just like they're lazy. I don't know, or maybe they just haven't thought about it. But yeah, some of us are just differently have different skill sets. And like there was something I mean, I love this kind of stuff personally. Like there was someone that told me and I thought about it, like different people are in life for different reasons. Some are there for the journey, some are there for the goal, and some are there for the destination. Like, and the way they all do it is completely different. Just like the creative artists may wake up with no schedule and they do what they feel and they live life the way they feel, but we kind of like them if that's how they are and they've given to the world in that way. Like, but then we love the disciplined person who's like completely disciplined. Like, I guess you have to really know yourself. So,
I think it's also interesting too when, because now we're just talking about the United States, right? Or I should say only the continental, because I feel like people in Alaska and Hawaii have totally different outlooks on all of this, right? Because they probably
yeah.
have more time with themselves, right? In the US overall, we're just grinders and workers. If you take that shit to Europe, like I was talking about somebody when I went to Italy, they shut the shit down at 2 o'clock and we're not coming back
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock. So I don't care if you want to buy these shoes, my store is closed. If you want to come back after I have my siesta and I have my coffee and I have my nap and potentially some time with my lady, I'll be back around 5 o'clock. You, if you want those shoes, we could be here. But are we working too much and we are not doing, all that self accounting where we're just grinding and we kind of maybe we are all those things you're mentioning, but because we're so busy working, we're not allowed that time. And then COVID kind of gave us a gift, but I guess like everybody was on pins and needles to see if it was like the zombie apocalypse that maybe they didn't even allow themselves to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. Like, golly, I know somebody that took a airplane flight and they sat next to both these CEOs, just ironically, and these guys were saying, I did not know my family the way I did since I've been forced to be in lockdown with them. And like one of them was very grievous. He's like, I've got an adult son. I built a basketball court for him. Like I've given him everything. He's like, but I didn't really spend time with him, and I can't get that back. But I mean, it is interesting. Like, what is priority? And I mean, and there is one thing to be said. Like Elon did say, the U.S. is a nation of pioneers, of mavericks, of people who push and do things. I mean, who wants to put their family in a cart and go all the way across the U.S. just to get some free land, which is pretty cool. But you might half of them might die. Like this is who we are. Like I know we can go back to Europe, but I just feel like in a lot of our blood, like people who got here worked to get here. I mean, maybe a few people were wealthy, but the majority of people came from lands where they were being oppressed and they didn't they just wanted to get away from it and they work hard to make something. And then some of us just like I don't know, take it for granted. Like if you travel in places like I know people who've gone to third world countries and there's beauty in the countries and the relationships, but they come back and they're in culture shock because they didn't realize how easy they had it. But yeah, Italy is right. I had a friend that moved to Italy and she's like driven by the time schedule like we were talking about. And she thought she'd love living there. She's like living in Italy and visiting Italy are two different things. Like four
Like,
days in a row, the post office is closed. Like seriously. Yeah.
right, like mass transit just decided to have a strike because like
Yeah.
soccer's in town and they're like, we're not working today. We gotta go watch, soccer or I like to call it football, but you know what I mean? It's just like those kind of things. And I agree. I mean, come on, culture shock like nobody's business. I feel like we should be traveling more only to get that. It's like, well, you know that water pressure you feel? They don't have a lot of that over there, like running water of hot and cold, another, and the small things, right? And then you get to really understand and appreciate. But yeah, that's the thing, right? I feel like the Americans work way too much and then the Europeans seem like they don't work, I shouldn't say as hard, but as much. And I don't know if some of us are jealous or whatever, but at the end of the day, to say what you were saying about mavericks and pioneers with Elon, the US runs the entire market, right? That's we're a lot of the innovation is happening here, right? Just look, I'm mistaking your beautiful background for Northern California, but Silicon Valley ain't that big. It's not that big. And all the guys that made all that stuff there, I mean, it's changing so many things right now.
Yeah. I mean, it is really crazy how much it's changed. Yeah, you are right. It is super interesting for sure. I mean, I think Americans need a better balance. I think there's one thing, like I have some friends that like live in India. They came here and studied engineering like at Michigan. And they that's the one thing they missed is the close knit communities. Like we have a different way that we do community. It's not the same. Like the old world, I mean, we see a lot of the old world in Europe and India, like all over the world. Like the cities were meant for foot traffic, for people living and like congregating just down the street. Like here we build like we build a store like miles away. You have to get in your car and drive. You know, you're not gonna go with your neighbor to the store and hang out around the market. It's so different.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. I think that that was definitely one of the things that I enjoyed the most. I mean, even in New York and in some of the barrels, like with some of the Latin cultures, right? Like everybody comes to dinner, right? Like everything's shut down. There's no TV. Nobody's got the iPad. We're breaking bread. We're talking. You're discussing your day and things of this nature. So yeah, it is different. You know, I was just thinking about something when you talked about pioneers and stuff. I've been seeing you on Clubhouse a lot, and I've been trying to listen into some of the rooms. Some of those guys are hardcore in many different ways.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you because now Twitter comes out with this version of it called Spaces, and I think Reddit came out with this. I wanted to, it'll be two frame. I wanted to hear your opinion on Clubhouse overall, right? And then I wanted to ask you what are your thoughts on intellectual properties? Because I feel like
Mm,
we could just steal stuff now, right? Like, what is the point of me making it? If I made it, then you just take it. I don't, right? Like the same thing with stories. Snap had stories, someone borrowed that, and now everybody has stories. So
yeah.
let's start with your thoughts on Clubhouse because I see you starting a whole bunch and hanging in there and talking with the gearheads and the science guys all about Tesla. So is it or is it not a cool thing? I think Clubhouse is awesome.
I think Clubhouse is very awesome. I mean, I've enjoyed the Tesla rooms are fun, but I've actually enjoyed like, I mean, you're jumping in rooms like with physicists that are talking about their weird dream they had the night before. People that have that I don't know, just like I feel like it's if assuming the listeners here have been to college, like those late night college talks where we're all hanging around and we're just like shooting it out what we think and feel, like not afraid to just I enjoy that. That's really fun and it's exciting and it's creative. And Clubhouse is supposed to be a safe place where you're not allowed to record it. I mean, I can't I'm sure someone else is recording stuff. There's been issues with some people, but it's been pretty cool. And as far as the Tesla group, like I've enjoyed it. The one thing is you can't keep a running tab on what we've talked about. So you might jump in a room where we've talked about the same thing like the 10th time. So I just kind of sit and I'm like, okay, we all know this. Like, so it might get a little boring. And some people are very kind and they rehash it up and they'll verbally give it out for everybody and draw them all in. But I love Clubhouse. And to your other point, as far as the intellectual property rights, I think that is an interesting conversation over the last couple decades, if not really important this decade. I mean, we could bring in China, but we could bring in like, yeah, like things are just copied everywhere. I don't know, like I have gone on spaces. I actually was there when bored Elon Musk was talking because people thought I knew it wasn't him because I've seen the stuff, but it was crazy. I'm like, bored Elon Musk, like we're actually talking to him, but people do steal ideas. I mean, here's one example I gave somebody the other day is like when you go to be a professor for chemistry when you're studying, you have to do this big fair where you actually present to the chemical industry board, like the ones that I don't know, you get your professor, your PhD, so you can teach. You have to present them with them original idea in chemistry in order to be certified, like or to move forward and get your PhD, which is crazy because you put on this big fair like my professor did, and she actually came up with this method of getting paint to stick to like airplanes better than it did or any other kind of like metal, and she has to put it out there how she did it and everything, and these guys are just going on and like they just pick up her idea. There's no she can't get a patent on it yet, and they just use it. I'm like, it is really sad. We used to see scientists being given credit for their ideas. Now they work for corporations where they have to write in as patenters or as engineers or as scientists all their stuff in a notebook, and they leave it with the corporation at the end of the day, and the corporation gets that information. So we don't see a lot of like people coming out like, they're the next best scientists. Really a few, but rare, because they have to rely usually on the labs and all the other things that help assist them to be who they are. So I don't know, that's my take.
No, I think it's a great one because what I was going to say was, I love math, and the part that I didn't like about math was like show your work, right? And like now, with crypto and the blockchains, right? There's a ledger, right? And
Yeah.
FNE, a ledger. It's like, bro, you just can't steal my paint job idea here and just run with it. And then, if it was called, crazy paint, now you call it similar paint, and boom, and I think as much as we could be upset with, how the Chinese have done it to us, I feel like, and this is gonna sound terrible, but Zuckerberg is like the poster child of that thing, right? Because here he comes out and potentially borrows somebody else's formula, right? Tweaks it, goes to the $1 billion mark, and then again tries to buy Snap. They say no. He's like, okay, cool. I'll just steal the best thing about your app and I'll put it on all of mine. And then now everybody has it, right? Because Twitter has stories and all these guys. So it just sucks if you're trying to be, come up with a great idea and be different. And then there's no, I mean, does now the growth of Spaces and some of these other places that are going to use it going to, demolish what Clubhouse is going to be doing, right? Like, it's like, that sucks because I thought it was cool, right? And I thought when you're inventing stuff, there is an intellectual a property part of it, but it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't it seems like you can get an idea out there and someone will get kind of a hint of the idea, and if they're the first to launch to market, they get it. That just seems like the way it works these days. Like, I mean, there is something to be said about like just following around different groups that have SPACs and they all have these great ideas, but like everyone's like now SPACs are popular. That idea of having a SPAC to fund an idea is popular, but then you have, I mean, like Elon said, like prototype is easy, production is hard, like to produce it. And that is really true. There's a lot of creative people, and that's what they call them, starving artists, who can't, they're amazing at their skill set, but they need someone to back them and market them because they just don't have the ability to launch themselves. But hopefully they don't get abused in the system. I mean, we see musical artists. I mean, I think Taylor Swift, right? A few different ones, like Kesha, like they've been abused in the system and they've lost their rights to their own music, which is or they've been told what to do. So it's there's definitely people who pray and wait for that kind of stuff. They're opportunists, and not that opportunists aren't bad, but there's just definitely people who don't respect you, and they'll take your idea because they're about the bottom dollar and power. So
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nuts. I feel like it's kind of weird because, when you're the starving artist or the guy that sees things differently, that's what your job is, right? You definitely need the other parts. It's very hard to be, let's say, like the next Musk in the sense of think it and execute. Like the execution is the
yeah,
hardest part, right? Because everybody, I feel like also too, as an artist, you're constantly trying to make it perfect when at the end of the day, you're going to make something else. Take what you couldn't put into that. And then just like we were just talking about math, make it the remainder. Okay, well, I remain 3% that I left off of this. Let me add that. So I'm already starting with 3. Like even now talking to you, I'm listening and I'm like, okay, I'll fix this and I'll fix that and I'll work on this and work on that because I'm always trying to improve the process. But I feel like that's not everybody. And a lot of people do get stuck with trying to make one thing amazing. In speaking about that, right? So we get the guys back from out of space with NASA and all of that. Do you feel like Elon now is kind of pushing more of the chips center of the table on that? Or is that just the media showing us more of that side of things?
you mean sorry, I had to clear my, you mean like
Okay, but it just like it seems like
being
he's more involved now, or not more involved, but there's just more news coming out more about everything that's dealing with SpaceX, right? Versus once they got the numbers back from the car thing, like Tesla's kind of okay. I mean, he did ride around the Cybertruck in New York, but you don't really hear the news coming up like that. I wonder if he's shifting gears or is that just the media shifting gears for him, in your opinion?
boy. So before the astronauts, I mean, even the Crew One demo, like before the astronauts were launching, a lot of people did speculate, and I did myself, that I mean, Elon's passion is really to get like a universe of traveling humans out there in the galaxy, like civilizations on other planets, and that is his bottom line goal. So as he's trying to clean up this planet and do other things with Tesla and stuff like that, and Tesla is kind of helping fund that goal. Um, I think we're seeing him having the ability to actually step aside if Tesla seems like it's finally running okay. It's kind of like a child that you reared. I think he said before Tesla is like one of his children. So I think he finally can like step into SpaceX now that the confidence is there with NASA. Now that he I mean, he's the not the underdog anymore. He's the top dog, and he's not doing it in a way that he's lording it over everybody. He's just like, hey, we got the plans, we got it fixed. We can bring down the cost. We can do this right, and he's just showing people how to do it. I mean, there's the whole Bezos like Blue Origin like having a tizzy. Maybe it's not fair the contracting, but I mean,
Again with the
when you
intellectual property stuff.
yeah, seriously, but
Being
when
serious.
you I just feel like he should be rewarded more because when you see somebody doing well at their job or their labor or their gifting, why do you not give them more? Like, has he failed us yet? Like in these things? No. Like, why would you strain him when he can actually make things go further? Like the fact he runs five companies is just mind blowing. But I don't know. That is pretty cool. I think SpaceX is baby, and like I mean, he moved to Texas, so he's definitely going to be there more. So
I mean, I think it's insane when you start to think about him doubling down, from his original investment with PayPal and going through 8 rockets and them all blowing up. The ninth one is successful, right? And then now, homeboy, like you were saying, is not only was the underdog, he's the leader of the industry. In okay, now we can get the rockets back. We can cut down costs, right? Like everything is working, and I'm sure some of the stuff that he's able to do within Tesla with, let's say, batteries or maintaining energy or building certain things. Hey, I can move it onto this. I thought one of the more fascinating things was that he's using robots to make machines, which is crazy, right? And then that's kind of now how he's using those same machines to work on Neuralink. And it's like there's so much stuff that he uses that has zero waste. It's just constantly being reused over and over again. Where that, the day will come where he builds a machine that not only makes cars but makes spaceships and makes Neuralink and makes who knows whatever else, batteries and solar panels. And I mean that's insane.
yeah, no, seriously. I mean, that's what he's highly efficient. I love that. He's not cheap, he's thrifty, and he does make things make sense. Kind of like when he was choosing the siding and the material that he was going to do for SpaceX. Like, why in the world would he pay this thing that's like 100 times? I don't know, it was ridiculous the cost that was industry standard when we could just do something else because someone has a patent and says to do it like this. I love that Elon just says, "Hey, we got it for a better deal, and this works too." Like he just does it. He doesn't wait for the permission for everyone to say the idea is okay. And that's what I love about him. He really paves the way for all of us who think that, like you said, we need, oh, you need a PhD to speak to this, or you need to use the top of the top material to show that it's the best. Like, that's not true. Like, just because something's like name brand does not make it the best. Like, there's definitely qualified things out there and people that don't have all the credentials, but seriously know more or do better.
I know. I think it was in our first interview where I brought up when I was doing research on you. I listened to a video that he did about looking at diehard casting and how he
Yeah.
would take diehard casting and implement it. Like the guy, I don't even know what to call it. Vision. It's like beyond vision, where you can see something for what it could be further and then make it applicable, which is not a lot of people have that. And they hire teams upon teams to come up with that stuff. I wanted to ask you, do you think that there's times where he's up here, right, on his own team, and people are just trying to catch up, and that could be another reason why things are slowing down? In the sense,
Hmm.
he's the only guy with the brain. I mean, he could delegate all he wants, but no one. I wonder, you being in Third Row Podcast, you interviewing him, you've been around that circle. Have you seen anybody that even comes similar to some of the genius or some of the outlook that he has?
Hmm. Well, I do see other people that have the same genius. Their ability to execute on that level is different. Like some people, like it's in their head and they can teach other people about it, but the execution is a whole different level. That's the crazy skill set that Elon has. Is he's got this genius visionary skill set with the ability to execute it and to understand the economics and the monetary behind it, which is just crazy. Like I just heard someone. It's funny that you're talking about people staying hang on to visions that are going nowhere. But I mean, I should be careful. But someone just said that. Well, my boss is a genius, and Elon is just good at. He's just good at manufacturing, and I'm like, this is bullcrap. Your boss isn't a genius if he can't do anything that actually gone anywhere. He would have figured it out by now. Like, and not always. Sometimes there's geniuses that are savants that are kind of stuck. But Elon truly is a genius, like in his execution and his vision. So, and can people arise to his level? I think there can only be one chief in a bunch of Indians. So I think he does have people that definitely could supplement and complement where he's at, but they've obviously submitted to pursuing their dreams to his vision. So yeah, I mean definitely like kudos to some of the engineers and scientists that work for him that have actually come up with some of this stuff. So Yeah, but it's definitely his vision. I think he just says we'll do it, and they have to figure it out.
Right, I know. Sometimes he's like Tom Cruise. You know, his mouth is writing checks, his body can't cash sometimes, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if you ever heard that reference from Tom.
No.
But I wanted to ask you because the only other thing I could think about is how's Kimball? Is Kimball like similar? Because I know this guy does like sustaining farming and all this other stuff. Is it just something from the fam that they just
Mm,
differently, right?
I think, I've examined that. I've analyzed that. I thought, what is it about the musts that make them so successful and driven? And I think by default, I mean, all that May had went through, like she had to work as a mother all the time, and it seemed like she incorporated the children part of it, like kind of like I mean, like you would read in more old world style, the family all works together. Like she's working and she's taking delight in it. The fact that she has freedom and she's a happier person. The children were helping in it. I mean, the ingenuity and the drive is probably in there. It sounds like May's parents were like that, but the children were partaking in it. And May seemed very trusting in seeing that they had giftings, and she let them have that freedom. I mean, there's something about when you see the gifting of your child, the best thing you can do as a parent is pour into that and let it grow, not stifle it or ignore it and steer them the way you want. Like May just like let them step in and help, or maybe they had to in certain ways. Like it sounded like Kimball was like May said. I mean, she knows nutrition and diet stuff, but like she was busy, and Kimball stepped in and started cooking, and like Elon was always fascinated with the electronics and the programming and the computing stuff that he was doing. And Kimball, they always supported each other. I mean, that's what I love about their family. They're always supporting each other. But Kimball seems to be doing really well. They just run with their passions, and it seems like they took a love for working. Like they like Elon said, don't do it unless you love it. But maybe a lot of people have a dichotomy where work is like slave labor and family is like something that you love and do on the side.
Yeah, I heard somebody speak to that once. He said, "Do what you like, not what you love, because you'll end up hating it." Right? Because
Oh,
right, isn't that strange? Because you could love something. Like he used the reference that he loved dancing, so he wanted to be a dance instructor. And the more he started doing dance instructing, he realized that it became work, and he hated it. And it
yeah.
all robbed him of what he loves. So he said, if you like it, do it. It's better than that way. If you come with fits with it, it's better. It's easier managed than if you love something. Because I've even this, I can't tell you how
Mm.
many times I've wanted to throw the computer out the window for like crashing mid edit, or collapsing on an interview, or me trying to get something or do something or download something wrong. And I don't know again if this is something that I love, but I guess because I like it, I'll stick with it versus me loving it and then just totally quitting on it. I feel like that's that age old saying, there's a thin line between love and hate. So you gotta be careful. Speaking to the May stuff, it's crazy because author, like child actress, worker, like she is definitely many hats. So it makes sense that those are her kids, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
I think that speaks volumes, and I really can't wait. I mean, I hope he continues to reach new levels. But I'm really excited to see what the kids do, because usually the kids don't have to fight as hard as like, especially third in, right? Like mom laid down the hard groundwork, pop or uncle, whatever, went ridiculously hard in the paint. And then it's like, well, we're rich now. So what are we, what are we going to do? Right. So that's going to be
Yeah.
fascinating to see that third, version of of it showing itself. So I wanted to ask you this too, because I know you guys, like are kind of, and this is a kind of a shot, but all the cool kids for owning Teslas, right? You guys got like the exclusive club. Everybody likes holding hands and basking in the glory. Do you guys think that it's that you guys are ahead of the curve because of this hack that went down with the whole oil thing, and now you got people like gallons and gallons at gas stations? What is going on?
That's crazy. This is like a doomsday scenario. I mean, like people would be like an EMP, like, or somebody hacked that's what they used to say. Someone can hack the whole grid in the software. Like it's all hackable because it's just like programming. So here we are, like a attack from Russia. Um, yeah. I mean, we'd definitely be even more ahead if we were living in California with the roll blackouts and we had solar panels too. So yeah, I mean, I do feel blessed. I mean, I'm not on the East Coast, but it could happen anywhere, and it probably could keep happening. Like it is, the EVs are the future for sure. I mean, I feel bad for people over there. I mean, and then you see the people with the people filling up tons of tanks or selling it for tons, or even the plastic bags. I'm like, who puts gasoline in a plastic bag. Like, no, this is a Darwin Award.
I know. I was talking to a friend about it. He's like, first of all, it's like highly flammable. He said,
Yeah.
second of all, the gas is highly flammable from what it comes off of. It's like, and this is the thing. I mean, I hate to put it in like in this context, but like, are we watching the beginning of the end, right? In so many different ways.
Mm,
And Nostradamus, one of his predictions that were wrong was that the end of the world was gonna happen already, right? What I told somebody was, what if that's not what he meant? What if he meant that that was just the end of that style of world, right? And now something else is emerging, because I mean, I don't even know if we still got our handle on COVID, right? We had a massive blackout in Texas that screwed up so many people's lives. Now you got this like hackable situation with the gas. Like, it just seems like there's just always something else that's really uncovering weaknesses in America.
yeah. Well, I mean, the world at large for sure, but yeah, we are too trusting. Like I don't know what's. It makes yeah. There's so much that could be said to that, but yeah, maybe. I mean, the world is shifting, and like as much as I like to say COVID will be done next year, we were hoping it would be done this summer. I mean, this could go on for 10 years. Like the new strains in India, even though it's always having new strains, but the new strain in India, as bad as it is, the Brazilian strain, like I don't know. So people are getting vaccines and we need a lot more people vaccinated, but like you'll need a booster for this new strain, just like the flu seasonal. And like I was watching a movie last night and someone just like took off in an airplane and went to Puerto Rico really fast just to like enjoy the culture and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that'd be so nice. I'm like, is this all going to be a memory to all of us? Is this going to be us reminiscing what the old world used to be like? This is what life used to be. You could just love and people just enjoyed gathering together like in the public square and just being together. Like you can't do that. Like I mean maybe some places, but I don't know. It definitely is going to leave a mark of some kind of PTSD on the culture at large and the world at large, and it will, in my opinion, shift. It can't. I don't know how it can be the same. Like maybe if we get this under control, but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's bananas when you look at Bill Gates, who talked about it. His prediction is like the end of 2022. I'm like, shucks. And then you have, India just going ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know, within like a 2 week span, 400,000 cases, 3,000 deaths daily. Brazil can't get a handle on it. I mean, if one person from those strands gets over here and affects people, the thing for me is that we're not even okay. Cool, let's get all of these immune shots or whatever. But are we even fixing the medical institutions that were having a problem with this? ICU beds are still going to be limited. Doctors are going to still have to be working around the clock. I don't see like a massive college graduation of people coming out and being epidemiologists and doctors and all of these other things. Like, are we even behind on that, where people are, now people are shifting and being an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, a podcaster, a creator, even with the rise of FNT. And now I think that we're going to see tons of crypto billionaires. Like, how is this whole thing going to shift in a way that, are we going to be even able to handle with certain things? I mean, I think 2022 is ideal, but like you said, they had mentioned, it seems like every year they push it back, and then every year we get there, it's like they push it back again, because like you said, at this point it was supposed to be kind of smashed out. But I also think that there's a level of people not being compliant, which also makes it seem like it was martial law. It's like, no, listen, do we want to handle this or do we not want to handle this, right? Like, if we would have just shut down the thing for 6 months, everybody would have been cool. Hopefully the government at that time would have just paid everybody out and would have maybe been ahead of this, because there are countries that are ahead of it, right? But not, we don't want to. It was almost like we were like some spoiled kid. Don't tell me what to do, right? And then the thing that alarms me is that they turned COVID into a political platform. If you're a Democrat, you wear a mask, and if you're a Republican, you don't wear one. I think that I read a story today that, shucks, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on her, but a politician went through LEX without a mask to make a point. I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you? What's wrong with you guys? I just,
Yeah.
it's just not. Our leaders are not trending things in the right ways, and now it just seems like it's just a downfall. And me and my friend talk about it all the time, but it's like you're considered like weak if you got to wear a mask, right? Like, it's like somehow they shifted it to that. Like, no, bro, this is called science. Science, like 1+1 is 2. Like, if you're not protected, you can get sick. And it just seems like the masses are getting a handle of this. Also, too, I mean, it being a novel virus. I feel like the CDC, and I get it, it was a hard thing to do, but they've walked back 100 different things they've said. The WHO has been guilty of doing crazy things. Anthony Fauci basically lied to everybody in the beginning, saying that masks weren't working. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
that was a mess.
What? What? There was a
He
guy.
knows better too.
Come on, you. First of all, there's two people that take oaths: doctors and lawyers. You're supposed to protect your client. You're supposed to protect your patient. How did you break that code? You should be in trouble, right? But you picked what lives were important. Like I was just mentioning, a guy went on Joe Rogan and said it could only keep you from spreading yours. But I've spoken to physicians. And I'm like, that's not true. And I'm just like, and then you get this water droplet thing, and it's just crazy. I mean, people refuse to wear it on flights, right? It's like, come on, guys, this is not. That's why I think that it keeps getting pushed back, right? Because
Yeah.
I get you, college students, right? Everything about college is spring break, but do we really need to go to Florida this time? Was it that important? Was it important? But
Yeah,
it was apparently. Don't
that
don't
was nuts.
don't ruin my college experience because I got to go and I got to get a tan line. And I think that's really why. And the thing is that we're taking it as a joke because, in my opinion, because the infrastructure is broken, if it gets here, it's gonna be harmful to poor people because poor people are they're not ready for that, and that's where the largest populations are. Like if we get this thing again, it'll just go rampant, and people are just not even thinking about it like that. It's over. And there's another level, in my opinion, of the fatigue. People are just tired of it already too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I couldn't even imagine, even though I'm not a fan of Trump and how he handled this was a mess from the start, and I don't really think anybody was going to get a handle on it. I mean, I'll let you back in if you want to share some more of your thoughts on any of the things that I said.
Yeah, so they say like during the Great Depression, alcohol and entertainment were the number one thing. And I think that people seek comfort. And so people are getting to the end of the rope and they're just saying, the hell with it. And they're just seeking comfort and they don't care. I think it's unfortunate. But I think you're even going to see people, this is a concern of mine. People are getting vaccinated, the two vaccines, and they're like, God, I'm good to go. I don't need to wear a mask. So now you have people running around that are vaccinated with people thinking, oh look, no one's wearing a mask. I don't need to wear a mask. So you run into that problem too. Like it's not it's I don't know. Like what do you do now? Like
And then all of a
so
sudden, now everybody's like, shooting people again. I don't know. I don't understand. It's
yeah,
like,
that's nuts. And here's a weird one. Like so you wear the mask so you don't give it to other people and you can't breathe it in from people's droplets, but I mean your eyeballs are exposed. It doesn't it's just you can get it in your eyeballs. Like it's funny to me. I mean,
almost like if you think about it, like to fully not get it, you'd probably have to wear that mask plus the blast shield.
yes.
Because spitting, I mean, that thing, it's insane how it travels. And then when you put it under like a UV light, there's stuff coming out all the time,
Yeah.
right?
It's gross.
And then it's just like
Yeah.
6 feet far enough. It might not be. And then they change it. Oh, you could do 3 feet. And then it's us. And then you got guys in Florida that I mean, they didn't fully do it, but they removed the mask mandate. Texas removed the mask mandate. Arizona did. And it's like, this is the thing that I get concerned with because people are using science for bad. They'll say, well, the numbers are down here. Oh, that's proof it's gone. I'm like, no, that's not how that works, boss.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works. But it's I don't know. I've spoken to some of my friends who I guess they think that they're into the chaos theory, but I'm starting to get really worried because it just seems like there's just too much pressure. And if we have a couple of things happen again, I don't know if this place is gonna make it. I mean, it's really sad to see. I mean, we can't even get doses right? Like we can't even give where we're going. I mean, I just read some things. Some lady gave somebody like 15 doses worth into somebody, and I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And then Johnson and Johnson had to pull it back because apparently it was linked to blood clotting. I mean, it's just, again, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a doctor, but all this stuff that I have to learn just so I can keep a conversation with people is alarming.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot of stuff to keep up on. And I mean, like they said, like I mean, what did they say? They lifted the IP, the intellectual property rights on the vaccines, so anyone can use them. But I mean, they also lifted the trials for humans and stuff like that too. So they're just going straight to people and administering them. But I mean, I didn't know if you knew that, but I mean, Vegas has the India strain. They found it in somebody, in a girl that never left the country and never associated with somebody who left the country. So I mean, it's here, and it's, I mean, in Vegas, like
That's
that'll
close.
go fast.
That's close to
Yeah.
us for sure. That's just that's called a couple drinks and kissing. I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you, this has been debated a bunch of different times, and I've seen it on a lot of things. And I know you get geeked out about science. Based on all of these, from what folks are saying, based on all of these different mutations, it seems like it was something that was designed that got out by accident, because people have had to walk back the wet market theory, because there's no, this thing would have not changed. I mean, like, there's already been like 4 or 5 different strands, and it keeps on mutating, which is insane. Like, we can't even, like you said, you can do it for A and B, but now C and D are out. So now you got to go back to the lab and come out with something else, or like you said, with the boosters. And this might be something like a flu, but it doesn't seem like masks are coming off anytime soon. So I wanted to hear what were your thoughts on some of the origin stories you might have heard.
Oh god. Well, I mean, did you see Fauci being grilled by Rand Paul? Is that who that was? Like,
I like Grandpa.
in
He grills
Congress?
everybody. I don't know if he's I don't know if he's any good at what he does, but he loves grilling people. No, please enlighten me.
That was like yesterday or the day before, but I mean, basically, he brought it back to saying you have labs that you helped set up with and work in co-partnership with Wuhan. Like, you know that they let, there was foul play, like basically like things happened, and like you let things happen in the safety of this. I mean, we already know that we've arrested like agents that have worked in some of these vaccine labs in the past that have tried to sneak vaccine stuff over the border. But like, I mean, geez, like, I mean, when you're, I mean, like, I mean, I just read stuff. It's hard to know what's conspiracy theory. I mean, it does sound conspiracy theory. Like, and I thought about this back years ago, like long time ago, at least a decade. Like, if you were to make something to create another war, I think biological warfare is the way you would do it. And that's a big thing to say, is if someone would want this and cut anyone else down. Like, someone's like, oh, China would never do this. I'm like, well, heck yes, China would do it to their. I have no doubt that they would sacrifice something. Like, but I'm not saying China did it, and I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but it seems like it got out, like you said, like it was not planned. I mean, we've had COVIDs, we've had COVID viruses in animals that have their own. We have COVID viruses in humans, but that's the whole thing. Something has jumped species. And that was always the fear when, I mean, China, I mean, I could just talk about this alone. China just injected some human brain matter cells into a monkey. And this is stuff that, according to the Helsinki declaration, most scientists in countries around the world sign this and say we will not do this thing where we mix humans and animals like this. But China doesn't care. They've been doing this. I mean, they've been trying to grow human organs in pigs for a long time, for like, so they've done this kind of stuff. And the major concern through most of that, the last couple decades, was that a virus would learn to jump species. And so here we are with the world pandemic.
I know it's crazy. Everybody thinks World War III is going to be like everybody pressing the nuclear button, but I feel like a virus would be so much more dangerous and so much more harmful. And if you had the vaccines, you could pretty much walk around. I mean, if it's nuclear holocaust, there ain't no vaccines for that. So it's an interesting way of changing but preserving at the same time, because it doesn't affect wildlife the way it does us, or any of the buildings or infrastructure or plant life in that way. But this is definitely something that continues to keep evolving and moving. And I just feel like if we had more conversations, honest conversations, not just political leaders and community leaders, but amongst us, to just be safe and be careful. I mean, I don't know where I really sit on the aisle, but I wear masks to protect other people. I don't really care, if I think one way or another, if it's for the better good, or for everybody else, even if it's just the placebo effect. I just feel like some people are not even that gracious. They're like, you know what, I won't, and I don't care. And so it's almost funny. It brings us back full circle to our earlier conversation. Some of the flaws in the human DNA, especially from a mental perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes with civilization and being sophisticated. We do things for the greater good of other people, not because we have the freedom because we can just go out there and do it. Like an expert, like maybe a skydiver or like, I mean, a cliff jumper could probably just like jump right off a cliff right there. But I imagine that one that's responsible would not do it in a bunch of 16-year-old teenage boys who've never done it, assuming that he was just somebody who just did it. Because maybe he would realize they might copy him and get injured. Or like when you go in someone's house, like you take off the shoes maybe for someone's house. We do it out of respect. Like, do you have to? No, but you will still do it out of respect. So there's like a sense of responsibility and care for people at a greater large. So like we wear masks, and I guess some people feel like the whole thing is a hoax and it's made up. So they'll make a stance and not wear a mask. Or maybe they got the vaccine and they feel like they don't have to. But like, I don't know. It's such a fine line. It's a mess, is what it is. But I mean, you should wear a mask to respect other people. I mean, the elderly are. We don't hear a lot from the elderly, ironically enough, and their voices are very valid. They've lived a lot and they've seen a lot. But I mean, they're the ones that should be terrified. This is what's killing them. It's not killing most of the young people or the middle-aged generation. Well, the Brazilian ones attacking babies, but I agree with you. Wear a mask. Like if you love people, it just like kind of says that.
I know it was another full circle thing, you know, just ownership, right? Which is it's insane. I think that it's important for us to. I think that to be honest with you, in my opinion, is the core of the situation with a lot of this stuff that's happening right now, at least in America. You know, we're not making other people accountable, including ourselves, right? You know, and I hope we start transitioning
So
towards that.
like we need to be a little bit more careful in club.
Seriously, I mean, an actor just got in trouble for being in a room that was saying anti-Semitic thoughts, and then I've been watching them too because I don't want to say that I'm a voyeur, but I just kind of hang out and listen to people, and I've seen like I've been in more of these comedy rooms, and you see like heavy duty player personnel people listening. So I don't know if they're scouting for talent or so if they're doing that, I'm sure at other levels they're doing, you know, other things. Everybody's eavesdropping at one point. But I wanted to bid us a farewell. Thank you so much for coming on and always, you know, blessing me with your thoughts and things of this. I would like to do this again very soon if that's okay with you.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be great. Yeah. Thank you for thinking of me.
No, for
But
sure.
yeah, it was a fun conversation. There's definitely, I mean, I love talking about these things. These are the things I will jump in on Clubhouse and talk about. Like
I
it's fun to
agree.
get in like with I don't know if you've been in the rooms with Lex or even the Weinsteins, like they push the topics that are hot that people don't want to talk about and they can't be canceled because some of them have already been canceled. I'm like, yeah, what do they have to say? So
Yeah, I know. I love Lex. Lex is a G. He says some of the stuff and the way his brain works is just fascinating. But I haven't. I've been in a weird space. Like now, I'm like trying to produce and consume less. But Clubhouse is just so fascinating to me that I just try to put it in the background. But if it's like so many things are going on, either I'm like listening to an interview and editing, and then doing some other stuff, and I'm just like, man, how do you do this, Musk? I can't. Five things and I'm overloaded, and you're doing like 40, and you're also like trying to cure cancer at the same time. I can't even get this email to work right. But thanks always for coming on. And like I said, I would like to do this more and more with you, and that way people can get to know more about you. And I always think that you're fascinating, and some of the stuff and your viewpoints are amazing. So thanks for coming on.
oh, thank you, Dustin. You too. And I'll see you next time. Just let me know.
Okay, wonderful. You have a great day. Do take a walk or something. Go walk that
Yeah.
dog that was barking like crazy in the
Yeah.
background.
I'm like, it's someone come home from work.
I
What's up with the
know.
dog? Yeah,
But
definitely.
for sure. Thanks again. You have a great
Uh-huh.
afternoon.
You too. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.